I want to give a special shout out to my patrons, to my Bibliosprend, Bibliosworn, and Bibliomancers. Thank you so much for supporting my hobby and passion even more. It means a lot to me. Hi everyone, Petrik here. Today's video will be my March wrap-up. In the month of March, I finished 4 books. So yeah, that's really low, especially for me, because usually I'm able to read about 6, at the very least, usually 6 until 10 books per month. Well, ever since I started my booktube channel, it's always about 7 or 8 books per month, but for this particular month, I finished 4 books because, as I said, my life was super busy because it was my marriage, and also, well, to be honest, I spent most of my time playing Elden Ring. That game is just too good. I don't usually play a lot of video games now, but Elden Ring is an exception. It is incredible. But because I've read only 4 books in the month of March, I think this video will be the shortest wrap-up video so far on this channel. Especially because I've actually reviewed 3 of the books that I finished in the month of March on this channel. But in addition to that, I was able to finish 8 volumes of manga, and that's 20th Century Boys and also 21st Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa. I'll be talking about them later at the end of this video. So the first book that I finished in March, it was The Hunger of the Gods by Gwynne. This is the second book in the Bloodstone Saga series, and well, you all know how much I love Gwynne's books. Gwynne has always been one of my top favorite authors, and The Hunger of the Gods, which will be released within this month, is my second most anticipated books of the year. It is still my second most anticipated books of the year. Before this book, Gwynne has earned a perfect record for me, so basically every book since Malice until The Shadow of the Gods are included in my list of favorite books of all time. But for the first time, that streak unfortunately must end. But the main reason why The Hunger of the Gods isn't in my list of favorite books is because I think overall, even though this is still a very great book, I think overall this is Gwynne's weakest book so far. Believe me, that actually hurts to say that. It hurts. You all know how much I love Gwynne's books. And let me get this straight once again before people actually misconstrue my words. I still love this book. I still love The Hunger of the Gods despite the pacing issue. I just don't think it's as good as Gwynne's previous books, but I know that a lot of people will disagree with me. There has been a lot of 5 stars rating for The Hunger of the Gods, and I am very happy. Seriously, I am very happy for Gwynne. As I said in the beginning of this video, I have done a full review for The Hunger of the Gods on this channel. You feel free to check it out. You will know my full thoughts on it in a spoiler-free manner. But to put it simply, the good things that I love about this book, well, there is still a lot. There's still a lot of things that I love about The Hunger of the Gods, like the battle scenes. The battle scenes are always good. Gwynne never fails on this. And I really love the addition of 2 new POV characters here. Both of them are from the villain's perspective, but I think this is very necessary. One of the things that made the Banished Land Saga, Gwynne's previous series before the Bloodstone Saga, so good, because there is always the villain's POV chapters. And I really appreciate that Gwynne is doing something new with one of the new POV character here. I don't think Gwynne has ever done something like this before. Gwynne is trying to emulate one of my favorite authors, another one of my favorite authors, Joe Abercrombie's style. So Gwynne is trying to channel Sandan Glokta and Jezal Dan Luthar into this character inner thoughts and actions. I love it. It's really good. And other than that, despite the pacing issue and the infamous middle book syndrome, I really love the opening chapters, and obviously the concluding chapters, which is the climax sequence, were absolutely amazing. It was incredible. And with that conclusion, Gwynne has definitely set up the series for the big conclusion to come in the 3rd book. And from my perspective, Gwynne is usually at his best when he's writing the final book of his series, like Brad and The Time of Courage. So I'm hoping that the 3rd book, which I predict will be titled The Battle of the Gods, or maybe The War of the Gods, will be the best book of the series. The second book that I finished in the month of March is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I think a lot of people know Travis Baldree from his role as the audiobook narrator for Cradle by Will White. Just like The Hunger of the Gods, I also did a full spoiler-free review for Legends and Lattes on this channel, and I think this is the wholesome fantasy book that you didn't know you need. Even though Travis Baldree is known for his role as an audiobook narrator for Cradle and many other series, I think from now on he should also be known for his role as an author for Legends and Lattes, because this is actually so good. It is wholesome, it is cozy, and it tells a very resonating story and compelling story about starting new. It's never too late to start something new. Will it be difficult? Yes, it most likely will be difficult, but it's never too late. And that's one of the main themes of Legends and Lattes. And then there's also the theme about family, found family, and then community. It is just so good, really. I chatted with Travis Baldree about his writing plan, and apparently there is good news about this, because he is actually planning to make this a series of standalone books just like This World by Terry Pratchett. And I think that's the best direction that well, the series could take. A great standalone novel is always rare in fantasy and it's always appreciated. And you know what's even rarer than a great standalone fantasy? A wholesome fantasy book. It's really rare to find a wholesome fantasy novel that's really good to read. Slice of life is one of my favorite genre in other storytelling mediums, but somehow for a fantasy novel, it's hard for me to find a compelling one, and Legends and Lattes is definitely one of them. The characters were great, the description on food and coffee were amazing. You definitely give this a try, even if you don't usually read slice of life book. And the third book that I finished, again, I've done a full spoiler-free review for this book on this channel as well, and this is The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. So this is the first book, well, the first collection of short stories in the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. I am a huge fan of the video games, especially The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. It is one of the best games of all time in my opinion. And I'm just gonna be totally honest with you that I don't expect the books to live up to the quality of the games, even though this is the origin of it all. And I do realize that there are two different storytelling mediums, but at this moment I just don't think that the books could actually live up to the immersive quality that the game have. That being said, I really enjoyed this collection of short stories, and I think even though I've played the games, even though I've watched the TV show adaptation, so that means I knew the stories in this book before I even started reading it, but still, I was still so immersed with this one. Other than Age of the World, I actually don't have any problem with any of the short stories in this collection. And that's actually something rare because I don't usually enjoy reading short stories. Some of the sentences felt a bit awkward here and there, but again, some readers have pointed it to me that this is due to the quality of the translation rather than Sapkowski prose. As mentioned in my TBR video, I'll be continuing with Sword of Destiny this month. And again, if you have missed this news, Sword of Destiny will get an illustrated edition just like this one. This is absolutely gorgeous and I am so excited about getting Sword of Destiny illustrated edition. Finally, the last book that I finished in the month of March, and this one took me 8 days to read, but this wasn't because it was a bad book. So this was The Winter of the Witch by Katherine Arden. This is the third and final book in the Winter Night trilogy. If some of you recall, this is one of my 10 priority series to start and finish within this year, and I'm glad to finally clear this one. Katherine Arden started this book with intensity. I didn't expect that The Winter of the Witch will be so intense starting from the beginning, and it continued that way for the first quarter of the book. I did, however, find that the middle section felt a bit uninteresting to me, but this is definitely a personal thing because I'm not too much of a fan of Morozko and also Vasya's relationship. I don't mind these characters. I love Vasya. Vasya is one of the best heroines I've read in historical fantasy, or fantasy really. And I also like Morozko enough, but you know what? I just don't really care about their relationship somehow. And this is one of the main things of this book. So that part didn't really click with me, but the atmosphere, the character development of the other characters, the folklore, everything really clicked with me. I love Arden's prose. Vasya's character development and her relationship with her siblings continue to be the main highlight of this book and the entire series for me. And I know I'm being repetitive about this, but this is the truth. Yeah, this is my opinion, and yeah, that's the best part of the series for me. I came into this book, I came into this series because I wanted a series that could actually make me feel the cold because there is no winter in my country, and I got what I want. But I got something more. I got so much more out of it. Like, Vasya is one of the best heroines that I've read, but is Vasya the best character of the series? I will have to say no. Surprisingly, it's not Vasya. It is Sasha. Sasha is amazing. I can't believe the development that actually happened to this character. I read the final part of this book, part 5. I read them in one sitting. It was so good. It was so good. It was emotional, it was intense, it was just unputdownable. I'm not usually a fan of historical fantasy. In novels, I love fantasy, I love historical fiction, but usually when it comes to historical fantasy, I bounce off it. I don't know why, it just happened. But for this one, well, this is an exception. The Winter Night trilogy is great. I give every book in the series a 4 out of 5 stars. Overall, this series is consistently good from beginning to the end. As for the manga series that I read in March, as I said, it is 20th Century Boys and also 21st Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa. This is my first reread of this series after more than a decade. I have forgotten so many things, but one thing I do remember is that this is one of the most meticulous and well-plotted series that I've read. And after reading it again, it still remained that way. It is incredible. Naoki Urasawa is truly a genius in my opinion. Some of you may know this already, some of you probably don't, but I am a huge fan of manga. huge fan of manga. Even before starting reading fantasy novels, I've always read manga since I was a child. And because of this, I want to start including manga stuff on this channel, even if only slowly or a bit. Nothing will change to my usual content, it just means that there will be an additional manga stuff on this channel too. And with that in mind, I will be reviewing 20th Century Boys on this channel next week. It's only the first part and it will feature Sarah from Sarah Reads. She's reading through it right now, and after that, and the next part after that will also include Alan from Library of Alexandria. I am so looking forward to it. This is one of my favorite manga series of all time, and if you haven't read 20th Century Boys, I highly recommend it. It is truly fantastic. So yeah, that's all the novels and manga that I've read within the month of March, and my book of the month, well, it's not The Hunger of the Gods, but it's Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is probably the most surprising novel that I've read within this year so far. And yeah, I cannot deny that this has become one of my favorite books. So yeah, that's it for me today. This is shorter than my usual wrap-up video, but I hope you will still find something interesting on this wrap-up. Let me know what your thoughts on my wrap-up, and do let me know how many books you read in the month of March, which one was your favorite. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye bye.